which is on public goods. Okay, now, economists talk about four types of goods. The ones that we discuss the most are private goods. Okay, private good is something that a single person consumes, um, and it's privately owned by that person, as the name would suggest. Okay, but there are potentially two characteristics that goods can have, or important ways of splitting up goods. Some goods, oops, some goods are what we call rival in consumption. Some goods are excludable. Okay? And then there are all four combinations of these things. A good that is rival in consumption. Wait, let me just peek ahead. Okay. Rival in consumption means that when one person consumes, then another person cannot. Another person cannot. So think of an apple. If I have an apple and I consume it, can anyone else consume that apple? No, it's gone. It's in my tummy. Okay, that's rival in consumption. Another example is like when one person consumes, another cannot fully enjoy it. Okay, another cannot fully enjoy it. So even like a road is somewhat rival in consumption, or we describe it as being somewhat rival in consumption. When one person drives on a road, it reduces everyone else's enjoyment of the road. That's often the case with congestible goods. Does that make sense? Okay. If you think of a good that's congestible, like maybe going to a restaurant, and the more customers are in the restaurant, the lower the quality of your experience. That's rival. That's somewhat rival in consumption. For something to be not rival in consumption, like truly not rival in consumption, two different people can enjoy it. One person enjoying it does not in any way impact another person's enjoyment of it. Think, for example, of listening to a radio transmission. You can listen to that radio transmission, and it does nothing to diminish my enjoyment of the radio transmission. We can both be listening to that same radio station at the same time. Your consumption of it doesn't interfere with mine. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. Okay, so not rival. Multiple people can consume. Okay. Now, I suppose, to be completely realistic, most things are along some spectrum, or there are many things that are not perfectly one way or the other. Like a library book. I think of a library book as being, like one of those things, it's a little bit rival in consumption, but not very. Like I can check out a library book, read it, and then you can also check it out and read it. Not exactly at the same time, but it's something that multiple people can consume and it doesn't get used up. Okay, makes sense? Okay, now excludable goods. Okay, excludable goods are ones where we can, or where people can be prevented. People can be prevented from consuming the good. So again, think of my apple. That's my apple. You can't consume my apple because it belongs to me. My car. You may not drive my car because it belongs to me. Okay? Those are excludable goods. Listen, in contrast, listening to the radio. Is listening to the radio excludable? Is there a way to prevent you from listening to a radio station? Not really, not traditional broadcast radio, right? Again, traditional broadcast radio, it's not excludable. Roads. Okay, here's a nice example of the distinction between roads. Most roads are not excludable. Anyone can drive on the road. But there are a few roads that are toll roads, and people can be prohibited from driving on toll roads. Okay? So, not excludable is the opposite of excludable. I expect that's not a surprise. And some goods are not excludable. Another example of a good that's not excludable might be like fishing. I mean, for certain, fishing in the deep ocean, out in international waters, there's no way to prevent people from doing that. Anyone could go out there and consume those fish. Stephanie.
So is it safe to say that all public goods are non-excludable and non-rival?
Is it fair to say that all public goods are not excludable and not rival? Absolutely. That is the definition of a public good. It is not excludable and not rival. Another example of a good that is not rival and not excludable would be the night sky, right? Anyone can look at the stars up there, and if I look at the stars, it doesn't take them away from you. That's the part about being not rival, and not excludable. There's no way we can say, nope, you're not allowed to look at the stars unless you pay admission. Okay? So, all goods can or cannot have these characteristics, and basically there are four combinations. Goods that are both rival and excludable. Goods that are both rival and excludable, here are the four different combinations. Those are called private goods. My apple, that's a private good. It belongs to me. I exclude you from eating it. It's rival. Once I eat it, no one else gets to eat it. And often we do talk about private goods. This is most of the goods that we think of. Okay, the opposite extreme are the goods that are not rival and not excludable. Those are called public goods. Okay. Now another example of a good that is not rival example of not rival is information. Knowledge. So, if I know how a market supply and demand model works, that doesn't reduce your ability to understand how market supply and demand works. Or if I know the formula if I know, or if there exists a formula for, say, a medication, for a vaccine for COVID, that is information I can use. But when I use the information, it doesn't take it away from other people. It's not the case that only one person can use that information at a time. So, again, not rival. Is it excludable? And the answer is, it depends. Often, new information is protected by a patent. Okay, so if I come up with some new technology, well, going back to my pharmaceutical example, if my drug company invents the formula for a new chemical that causes good things to happen to your body, that's information that is not rival. I can use it and others can use it, but generally the patent system is in place to make it excludable. During the first, well, usually a patent lasts for 7 to 14 years. And during that time, the person who invented the whatever and patented it can exclude other people from producing it, okay, or from using that information. Now, after that, after that time period, the patent, the information enters into the public domain, and anyone can use it. That means that it's not excludable at that point. So 150 years ago, the Bayer Corporation realized that it could produce a compound called salicylic acid, okay, which was good at relieving all kinds of aches and pains, and so it started selling tablets of this salicylic acid, better known as, you want to guess? Salicylic acid is aspirin. Okay, and so for a limited amount of time, Bayer Corporation could exclude others from producing aspirin. But after the patent expired, anyone could produce it. The same goes for ibuprofen was best known. Ibuprofen is another pain reliever. It's best associated with what company? Brand name that we're most familiar with? Yeah, Advil. Yeah, acetaminophen or paracetamol, better known as Tylenol. Okay, now there's a reason why these drugs are usually patented for a short period of time, which is because it's expensive to develop a new drug and then test it for safety and so forth. Yeah. Right here. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't see where I'm pointing. right here. Um, Protected by patent. Yeah. Okay, this word is patent. Um, yeah. The reason for the patent protection is to give the company some amount of time to recover those costs of researching and testing the drug. Okay. Anyhow, so excludable, I mean, that depends on the law. One thing that's happened recently is, of course, the coronavirus vaccines. And the US government funded some research into coronavirus vaccines. It gave several companies up to $1 billion to produce these vaccines under with some important conditions. One of them was that the vaccine would become public domain after they invented it. So this was like Operation Warp Speed, is what the previous administration called it. I think, for example, Johnson and Johnson accepted this money, maybe Moderna, to develop their drugs. And again, the catch is, once that formula gets invented, anyone can use it. It's a great example of a public good because, like the formula for that vaccine, the technique for producing it, it's a great example of a public good. It's not rival. My company can use that formula, and your company can use it at the same time, easily. It's not excludable once it's in the public domain. Okay, we all know how to do it. right? There's no way to prevent you from consuming it. Okay, so I've talked about the private goods, and that's most things, and public goods, okay, at the opposite extreme. There are two types of goods that are considered quasi public goods. Okay. Um, these are goods that have one characteristic but not the other. And one example are the goods that are not rival in consumption, but they are excludable. Multiple people can consume them simultaneously, but there are ways to prevent people from consuming them. How about um, streaming Netflix? Okay, I can go home and watch. I mean, Tiger King is dated at this point. Queen's Gambit. Oh, what is currently trending on Netflix? Anything good? Meh. Okay, I can go home and watch Tiger King, and you can watch Tiger King at the same time. I'm not using it up. I'm not taking it away from you. It's not rival. But Netflix is excludable. You have to pay a subscription fee or you don't get to watch their movies. Okay, probably that makes sense. A swimming pool, to some extent, is in the same category of what we call club goods. If a swimming pool is built, many people can enjoy it at the same time. It does get a little congested. At some point, it gets crowded and people start diminishing each other's fun. But it starts out as being fairly non rival, but we can make it excludable, uh, prevent people from using the pool. Put up a gate and say that it's for residents of this neighborhood only. It's perfectly possible. Um, Other things, movie theaters, concerts, they kind of work on, and other entertainment venues, they kind of work on the idea that consuming live entertainment or even movie theaters is up to a point not rival in consumption. One person watching the movie on the movie screen doesn't take away from another person's ability to enjoy it. They can both enjoy it at the same time, but they certainly are excludable. We can keep people out of the movie theater or the concert. Okay, um, so the final type of good are the ones that are rival in consumption, but not excludable. Okay, and we call these common resources. Um, Examples of common resources can include uh, let's see, again, fishing is often given as an example of a common resource. The fish out in international waters are available to anyone who wants to catch them. Okay? No country governs what happens in international waters. So again, not excludable. Anyone can catch them. Uh, Similarly, sort of with wildlife. Wildlife, like Bambi. Okay, Bambi doesn't belong to anyone, or Bambi belongs to everyone. And during hunting season, anyone can turn Bambi into venison jerky. Um, Okay, in other words, capture Bambi, and you know what happens. Okay, so no one is excluded from hunting wildlife, but these goods are rival in consumption. If one person catches that fish, it's not available to other people. If one person catches Bambi, that Bambi is not available to other people. So only one person gets to consume it. Other examples of common resources. Um, the United States has national forests and other federally owned land. Much more of this out in the western part of the U.S. And some federally owned land is used for grazing livestock. Okay? So you can have a herd of cattle that you graze out on public lands. Okay? For the most part, it's not excludable. Anyone can use those public lands, but it is rival in consumption. If my cattle eat that grass, it's gone for your cattle. Okay, so we call these common resources, like common in the sense that they are commonly owned, but they get used up. Okay, so at this point, let's see. Okay, I'm going to change what I'm doing for a minute. We're going to play a little game, a little experiment. I want for you all to think about the following example. I've put up the rules here on the board on the projector. Imagine we have a class with however many students, 25 students. And I give each student $100. And you have a choice what to do with this money. You can donate some, all, or none of it to a common investment. Okay? The money that goes to the common investment will double in value and then get shared among all 25 people in the group. Okay? The money that you don't donate, you keep for yourself. Okay? No doubling, it just stays what it is. Okay? So, if you, for example, if you have $100, you can keep, for example, I'm not trying to prime you with a particular value. If you keep 50 and donate 50, those 50 that you keep are yours. The donated will double in value, become 100, and then get split among all 25 people. Okay, you get how this works? Okay, so here is the question I have for you all right at the bottom. How much would you donate? Okay, how much would you donate? This is a matter of, there's no right or wrong answer to this. Okay, this is a matter of what you would like to do. I want for you to think about this and write down your answer. Okay, people on Zoom, I hope you all are alive and paying attention. I'd like for you all to also think of your answers. Okay, and write it down, little piece of paper. After I ask people for their answers, no changing your mind. Yes. Let's say 25, just to keep the math simple. I think it's really about 30 here, Stephanie.
Just to clarify, no matter how much you donate, it's evenly distributed.
Correct. It's evenly distributed. The proceeds, well, when you make your donation, it's evenly distributed among everyone. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Divided evenly. Okay. Does everyone have your answer? Okay. Does anyone want to volunteer what your answer is? And people on Zoom, one of you can speak up too. Who wants to say how much you would donate to the group investment? Yeah. Hmm? $20. Okay. So I have an answer, $20. Other answers? You all each wrote one down. Maya, right? What? $10. Okay. Yeah. 15, 1 5. Oh, 50. 50, 50. Stephanie? 25. Anyone higher? Yeah. Lower? What did 10? Another for 10. Okay. Just curious. Higher? Lower? Okay, I've got another 25 on Zoom and a 25 in person. Okay. Who else? You all wrote something down. Sydney? Okay, Sydney's another 50. Yeah. 25. Yeah. Another 25. Would anyone donate 100? No. Okay. Would anyone donate 0? Nobody. Nobody? Shit. I feel like a failure as an econ teacher. Yes, Stephanie.
Well, see, I think the mentality behind that is if you donate 0, then everyone else is going to donate 0. But if you donate something, then there's a larger opportunity of there being more to go and giving back.
Okay, so your rationale is that if you donate 0, other people will donate 0, and then that's a smaller portion for everyone. No, because they all wrote down their answers at the same time. When you wrote down 25, it didn't change anyone else's answer. They were giving what they were giving.
But I think if you look at the trends, we were all in the same general area because we all had kind of the same mentality behind it. And I think if you're thinking about like how people work as a society, well, if one person writes down 0, then you assume that everyone.
So you're talking about like how other people in the area work, and sort of as a society, um, we pay attention to each other. I mean, what you're suggesting is sort of a social contract um, philosophy of ethics. Yeah, I don't buy into that. Okay. Correct answer. Sorry, I told you there's no correct or incorrect answer. The correct answer is 0. Okay. If you did not write 0, you deserve to fail this course. Okay. I, Stephanie, I understand you think of this as a social thing, but but maybe I should have made this even more clear. No one else is going to know how much you donate. At the end of the day, what you donate, you get little of it back. Okay, I will be honest. This is the first class I've had where I have not had some students come out very clearly in favor of 100 or in favor of 0. Well, sorry, some students in favor of 100 and some students in favor of 0. I mean, the idea of 100 is if everyone donates their $100, that maximizes what everyone gets back. Correct? It maximizes the sum. And in fact, if everyone else donates 100, it maximizes how much you personally get. However, regardless of how much you donate, um, Well, let me actually, before I go there, what is socially optimal in this situation is that everyone should donate $100. Like, if we want to make as much money as possible for society, all of us donate your full $100. Then that, we're going to collect what, $2,500. It doubles in value to $5,000, gets split 25 ways, and you end up with $200 each. Okay, but $5,000 total for the group and $200 each. That's the most we can get as a group. Okay, and that's what an economist would describe as being socially optimal. Okay. But then imagine what would happen if that's what everyone else is doing. Everyone else donates $100, and you donate zero. No one knows. Okay, or you're never going to see these people again. Well, the money that's donated by the other 24 people becomes $4,800. Your share of that is $192, and you chipped in nothing to the common project. So you keep your full $100. You walk away with, $292. That's better for you. Okay? So if you want to be a good, rational economist about this, donate nothing. Okay? Yes, Stephanie.
But if you're being a good rational economist and so is everyone else in society, then you're not getting anything if everyone donates nothing.
So if I'm being a good, rational economist and so is everyone else in society, then no one donates, and everyone gets sort of the lowest possible outcome. That's exactly correct. Yeah. That's what we should do if we are rational. And
How is that rational when you make a larger profit if everyone donates a portion and then it helps?
okay, say that again.
How is that rational if you can make a larger profit if everyone donates a portion and then that portion doubles?
Let's say, okay, so you ask how is that rational? It's let's say individually rational. If you think about what's good for you, what's in your best interest, if everyone else is donating $100 and you donate your $100, you get $200. If everyone else is donating $100 and you donate nothing, you get $292. What's, like, from your perspective, donating nothing is better than donating all $100. Like, your individual perspective. This is not a group decision. Like, whatever other people are doing is independent of your decision. They've all written down their answers. Yeah.
How is it independent if it affects the cost?
How's it independent? Let me say the decisions are independent. It is not independent how much money you get, but you're independently making your decisions without coordinating and without knowing what other people are doing. So, in other words, their decisions can't influence yours if they're writing down their answers or coming up with their answers at the same time. Um, and and uh, and similarly, well, you can't influence them and they can't influence you. So you're making your decisions independently. Yes, the impact depends on what other people are doing.
So because of the value of impact,
Wouldn't it be rational? No, not for you individually. If you're watching out for Stephanie and you're trying to make Stephanie rich, then then I mean basically, like each okay, so I've written here individually rational to donate zero. Every dollar you give to the group doubles in value, becomes $2, gets split 25 ways. You get $8, or sorry, 8 cents back from every dollar you donate. So from your perspective, you are getting back any money you donate. Less of it comes back to you. Yes, 100. Well, you donate $1, it makes everyone else $1.92 richer. But from your perspective, if you're just thinking about what's good for you, that's irrelevant information. There is a difference between what's best for society, and I think you are, please don't take offense by this, you're stuck on that idea of like the rational thing to do is what's best for society. And
it made sense when you put it in numerical sense. It just didn't make sense when you were saying like
okay,
doubling and then everyone would benefit.
yeah. I mean, yeah, but if you just do the calculation for yourself, I mean, you get back much less than you put in. Okay, so I would say the one thing that's individually rational is donate nothing. Okay? And this is more or less how people behave. Um, you know, they just think about these two things. Do I want $1 that I get to keep, or do I donate it to the group and then it turns into 8 cents for me? Admittedly, $1.92 for everyone else. But those are just anonymous people. They don't know how much I contributed. I don't know how much they contributed. And it's not benefiting me. Now, for this to work perfectly, I mean, I'm thinking of someone who's perfectly selfish, and no coordination between people. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, not and someone who doesn't value collective good over individual good. I mean, this has a name. Just a second. This has a name in economics. This behavior is called the free rider problem. Okay. Free riding. That's a term that economists came up with. But I'm sure you've heard this, right? You know who a free rider is. Someone who benefits from the collective effort of a group without contributing their share. Okay, you've probably been part of a group project at some point where the grade depends on collective output of the group, but your effort that you put in, all of your effort falls on you. Like that work comes out of your time. Some of it goes to benefit you, but some goes to benefit your group partners, right? That's like the setup for what results in free riding. If I'm a member of a group, why should I work when I know that the less I work, the more my group mates will work? Or at a minimum, like a lot of the effort I put into working helps out my group mates. Okay? It just doesn't make sense to work hard in that situation. Even better, maybe the less work I do, the more work my group mates will do. Okay. Yeah. Again, you all know this. You understand free riding. That's exactly what people will tend to do when contributing to a public good. Okay? Because that group project that I'm describing is a public good. The grade on that group project is a public good. Everyone gets to consume the same grade. Um, you know, uh, it's not competition between people of the group for how to divide up those points. Everyone gets the same points, and you can't block a member of your group from getting their points. Okay, the teacher has just decided, has almost always decided in advance, everyone in that group is going to get the same grade, and you can't kick out a group member and say they didn't pull their weight, they don't deserve the grade. Okay? So that group project, the grade is a public good. It's a perfect setup for free riding. Okay. And the same thing would probably be true of any public good that a country might want to produce. If you can contribute $1 to the collective good of the country, and that doubles in value, every dollar of revenue the government gets can be used to produce $2 of value, but then that gets split 330 million ways, the population of the US. Like, your personal benefit from voluntarily paying for government services is close to zero. Okay? Like, basically, what your impact on the impact of your money on yourself is close to zero. Um, uh, so, um, all right. So this sort of sets up the problem with paying for public goods, or at least individuals paying for public goods. Now, I'll point out another example of a public good. Oh geez, what's that hobby I have that I talk about all the time? Firefighting, remember? Okay. How many of you in the past year or so have benefited from firefighting services? Like your dorm, your mic, you're laughing as if you have a good story.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Okay. You don't want, do you want to share?
Sure. I was making pancakes at home, and the butter burned.
Yeah.
And I didn't turn off the alarm system fast enough, and so the fire department.
Yeah. So the fire department came. Those things happen all the time. You feel embarrassed about it. It's like they don't even think twice about it. They're like, yeah, that's what we get paid to do. Okay. Uh, let's see. Traffic collisions. Let's see. You set off your home smoke alarm. Your dorm had a smoke alarm go off. Anyone benefit from these types of services? Only one person in the class? Yes.
Our dorm also.
Your dorm also. Okay. Um, seriously. Okay. I'm kind of surprised. Maybe it's because we've been staying home for the last year. Okay. I mean, you benefit from fire protection, you benefit from EMS services, but I bet virtually no one contributes to those. Like, contributes your time. Like, the Elon Fire Department is partly staffed by volunteers. So when dorm fire alarms go off, some of the people there, or some of the people responding to those fires, those fire calls, are just doing it for the collective good. Not because they expect to get much out of it personally. Now, there will be 1,000 fire calls for other people for each one that benefits them. So, but they're donating because it's beneficial to the community. Okay. As a matter of fact, I once sat down and did some calculations, and for each hour of donated time by a volunteer firefighter, the community benefits about $200. Okay, I mean it's a substantial donation to your community. Okay, but again, does anyone here contribute? Okay, suspect the answer is no. What? Yeah, contribute to firefighting, volunteer. Um, Again, they take applications down at the fire department. Tell Captain Flint that I sent you. Um, I mean, it's possible. So anyhow, that I think is an example of free riding. Now, Stephanie, I've been arguing with you about what's collectively rational. Okay, my donating time to a charity organization that I get little out of it, but it provides great value to the community, that is not individually rational, and I am being a bad economist by doing that. Okay, I'll just acknowledge that. Yes. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a good economist by thinking about what maximizes society's well-being, but an economist thinks of people as like individually. What I want to do is maximize my own personal well-being, and I'm not doing that. I'm uh, spending time to help other people out. Okay. I mean, yesterday, I'm not supposed to talk about these things. Um, Yesterday morning, I was working from home, and there's an EMS call. It was described as hemorrhage. Someone had cut their hand while working with power tools. Okay, so go and respond to this. And the guy was working with a plain old handsaw and had cut himself. He literally needed a Band-Aid. Okay, and that was an hour and a half of my morning. But anyhow, so um, yeah. So I acknowledge I think at least not individually rational. At the same time, the reason that I do this is in part because of guilt, knowing that in a fire district that has about 8,000 people, there are only about 40 people in the fire department. Okay, the others are all being rational, and they're doing what I would expect people to do. And so, if anyone understands the problem with rational behavior not being ideal for the collective good, it should be me. Okay, but again, we call this the free rider problem. Now, there are solutions to this. Here, let's think about a slight modification to that same experiment. Okay, class, again, 25 students. Each student has $100. You can donate some, all, or none to a group investment. Okay, money to the investment doubles and then gets divided evenly among the students in that group who donate at least X dollars. Okay, now think about you try to set up your own group to do a group investment. What would you make X? Okay. So you can tell the people in your group, we're all going to take our money together and double, but only the people who've contributed will get their share back. Okay. So now, again, what would you, when setting up your group, make X be? Okay. Kaylee, you seem to write down something pretty quickly. But do you have an answer?
For how much I would donate or how much?
You would make the other people in your group donate if they want to be part of your group.
Probably about half.
About half, Maya? They don't get their money back. They get their share of the group's money back. So if there are 10 people in the group and you donate your share, it doubles in value and gets divided among the other 10 people in the group. Okay? But again, there's an agreement that everyone in this group has to donate a certain amount. Okay? Otherwise, they're not members of this group. Okay? It's a slight modification. Sydney?
It's Grayson.
Grayson, I'm sorry, I apologize.
It's okay. Going back to how like people were sponsoring incentives, since the people would get their money back, would that be an incentive for them to donate more?
Okay. In this case, are you saying in this case or?
Yeah. In this case, would it be an incentive for people to donate more since they would get a lot, since they would get their, I guess like more out of their money back?
Yeah. Maybe the change in incentives here is that you're forcing everyone else to contribute. So you're still getting the same share back. And like if if the group were to have 25 people, the dollar you put in is going to give 8 cents back to you. However, your group can make a decision that like everyone puts in an extra dollar or no one does. Does that make sense? Pose it that way? Okay. If you could have this rule that like everyone contributes really the same amount and then they divide what they get back from that. Yes.
I kind of noticed that some on Zoom it's frozen.
Oh, Zoom is frozen. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're back to this. People have to donate their X dollars. If you were setting up a group, what would you make X be? 50? More? Less? Down? Maya? 10. Other suggestions? Stephanie? What? 100. Other ideas? Okay, yes. $1. Okay, yeah. 5. Okay. Does anyone have a sense of whether there is a right answer? Okay, there is a right answer to this. Sorry, I'll give that to you. What is the right answer? Okay. So now, when you're in the group, everyone who donates, the required amount will double, and you'll get your share of that. Okay. So if you're in this group where everyone donates $1, okay, that dollar will get put into the common investment. It'll double in value. And you get your share back. Okay, and it's going to be twice what you put in. because everyone else is contributing as well. So even if your group has like 5 people in it, you each put in $1. That doubles to $10. Gets split 5 ways. You get $2 back from that $1 you put in. Okay, yeah.
I feel like it's like if you put in like, if you put in 0 or like very minimalistic, I feel like you're gonna get the best, like most profits back to yourself if you just put 0 and let everyone else kind of put in their share. And so like return on investment, like you kind of get a better or a higher number back to you personally.
Okay. Now, in this case, if everyone is donating the same amount, everyone is going to get the same amount back in the end. Everyone in that group is going to get the same amount back in the end. So you're thinking about the whole group basically coordinating on how much they want to donate. Okay? Let me say, in this case, every dollar that you keep for yourself remains a dollar. Every dollar that gets donated to the group doubles in value, gets split among the group, but everyone else is doing the same thing. They're also matching that, and it doubles and donates. So you get $2 back for each dollar that goes into X. Okay, so the most money you can get from this would be if everyone in your group says, we will contribute $100, and either you contribute your $100 or you get nothing out of it, okay? And so then everyone in the group donates their $100, it doubles in value, and then it gets shared out evenly among the group members. Now, if there are, and then it doesn't matter the size of the group. If there are 5 people in the group, it's everyone, or they put in $500, doubles, becomes $1,000, gets divided out, $200 for each person. A dollar that gets donated, if everyone agrees to donate the same amount, will come back as $2 to a person, okay? So the right answer here, whether you're purely selfish, interested in what's best for you, or even if you care about your community, okay, the answer is $100. Okay. Now, if you're trying to make a decision which group to join, the group where everyone donates $10 or the group where everyone donates $100, you want to go to the group where everyone donates $100. You will end up with $200 that way. If you go to the group where everyone donates $10, you will end up with $110. Okay, got it? Okay, so actually, this small modification has resulted in, like, the people in the group make a decision that is efficient, socially optimal, maximizes money for society. Okay, and there's a tiny difference. Okay, so again, like the group would agree everyone should donate $100. Everyone should donate all your money. The real difference is it has been changed. The money in that common investment has been made excludable. Okay, we can exclude people who don't donate their $100. Okay, and changing the good, the money that comes out of the group investment, from a public good changing it from non-excludable to excludable, changes it from being a public good to what we call a club good. Public goods are not provided efficiently. Okay? If people make their own decisions about public goods, how much to contribute to a public good, there's incentive to free ride. But if we can make it excludable, then the free rider problem is gone, and everyone will agree to do what is best for society. Okay, Stephanie, I hope this makes you happier. Does it? Okay, it's just such a small change in the rules that has a big impact. And that one small change is excludability. Okay? So really, non-excludable, making things goods that are non-excludable will be provided inefficiently. If we rely on people to voluntarily contribute to funding non-excludable goods, or when it comes to the fishing or using a common resource, how much they take from the common good, it is individually rational to make a decision that is not best for society. Basically, free riding with a public good. With the common resource, it's overexploitation of the common resource. Okay, now think back to your group project. Okay, remember, if the rules are everyone in your group gets the same grade regardless of how much they contribute, the grade is a public good. Okay, and there's incentive to free ride. Maybe my contribution to the group of 4 people, I get a quarter of my effort comes back to me as improving my grade. Yeah, this makes sense for me to free ride. Okay, if I assigned a group project in this class, I would hope that everyone free rides, tries to minimize how much effort they put into the project. Okay, if not, you're being bad economists. That's a joke. Okay. Okay, but what would be a simple way to change the rules to get rid of free riding? If we could make the good, the grade, excludable, the problem would go away. Okay? If there were a way to set the rules that, for example, your group decides anyone who doesn't contribute 5 hours toward the group project doesn't get the grade, it gives incentive for people to do their share. And then the nice thing about that 5 hours is you and your group mates could decide, well, what happens if we raise that to 6 hours? Okay? It's not just a matter of you put in 1 hour extra work and you get a quarter of that back. Everyone is putting in another hour of the work, and so you are getting a quarter of what you put in plus a quarter of what the other people are putting in, the other 3 members of your group. Okay, so again, excludability is important. When things are not excludable, the amount that gets voluntarily produced is inefficient. Okay? So whether it's a public good or a common resource. Now this tells us a couple of things about private goods. Okay? Private goods, those will be produced efficiently by society. Okay? And we talked about that, I suppose, a week ago, that private markets will ensure that private goods are provided efficiently. Okay, unless there are externalities or some of those other things. In some way, public goods are the ultimate externalities. Like I talked about a vaccine formula as being a public good. You could also think of that as an externality when my company invents the formula for the vaccine. it provides benefit to all the other pharmaceutical companies. I mean, a public good is the extreme case of an externality. Okay, anyhow, where was it? Okay, private markets, as long as there are no externalities, private goods will be provided efficiently. Club goods will be as well. The members of your club or your group can decide what will be contributed and then together make a decision that is collectively, like maximizes collective well-being. So think of movies, okay? I talked about movies before. Once a movie gets produced, it is somewhat of a non-rival good. I can watch the movie Godzilla versus Kong. You can watch that same movie as well. Okay, we can watch it in the movie theater. We can watch it on DVD or stream it. Multiple people can watch it at the same time. So it's not rival. If movies were not excludable, okay, if there were no way to prevent people from watching the movie once it gets produced, there would be a problem for movie makers, and it would result in movies not getting made. Think of the problem of basically movie piracy. If it were completely legal just to duplicate a movie, all that has happened is one person buys a copy and then duplicates and just shares it for free with everyone. And that results in little revenue for the movie theater. And so the movie theater is not going to be interested in producing a very expensive movie if it can release it and then get no revenue. Or once one copy is sold, everyone gets to use it. There's no way to force people to pay in order to get a copy. The outcome would be inefficient. And those big blockbuster movies would never get made. Okay? With one small change, making the goods excludable. You need to pay to watch the movie. And in this case, laws allow the movie theaters or the movie production companies to prevent people from legally watching a movie unless they pay for it. That excludability ensures that the movie production company can get money back when they put money into making the movie and allows the movies to get made. Okay? So making a good excludable in a strange way is good for consumers. Okay? It ensures that the market reaches efficient outcomes. The non-excludable goods are problems because people think of the benefit to themselves, but ignore the public cost. Okay. Now, sometimes economists talk about the common resources as a problem that we call the tragedy of the commons. Okay, and maybe the idea is this. Okay, so the idea of a commons is that back in olden days, English towns would have some common area where anyone could graze their livestock. Okay, so any person could take their sheep down to eat the grass in the commons, the village commons. Okay. The problem is that people will tend to overgraze because, even if they're just two people who are grazing their sheep in this common area, if I let my sheep eat one more piece of grass, that's a piece of grass that my sheep gets for sure. If I have my sheep refrain from eating another piece of grass, there's a 50-50 chance that in the future my sheep eat it or my sheep don't. or your sheep eat it. So basically, when I'm thinking of, do I let my sheep eat lots and lots of grass? Do I keep a large herd to eat lots and lots of grass? The answer is kind of yes, I want to do that, because it's a trade-off between I get a blade of grass right now, or I can leave it, and there's a 50-50 chance of consuming it in the future. It's also, the tragedy of the commons you might also think of as a problem with sustainability of some common resources. If there is a, let's say, forest that can be harvested over many, many, many years, and I am the private owner of that forest, I would want to harvest my trees in a sustainable manner that maximizes, like, where I have a stable population. And I might, instead of cutting down a tree right now, leave that tree so it can grow larger and it can seed out, create baby trees. I have an interest in maintaining that property for the long run. If instead it's a common forest, I have little interest in maintaining it for the future, because the benefit of sustaining consumption goes largely to other people other than me. So if there's any kind of trade-off between profit now or profit in the future, I want to take as much profit today as I can. So this is almost universally a problem with common resources. The biggest example are, a perfect example are fishing stocks, wild fishing stocks in the ocean. There's a choice for each fisher to harvest as many fish as they can today, or harvest a portion today and let the other portion reproduce for future years. The problem with letting some of the fish stay and reproduce for future generations is most of those baby fish in future generations will be caught by some other fisher, not by me. Okay? So it's a choice between $1 of profit to me today or $10 of profit that gets split up over all the fishers in this ocean in the future. Okay? And what's best for society is some sustainability, letting those fish survive and reproduce. What's best for each individual fisher is to harvest as much as possible right now. Okay, and again, we call this the tragedy of the commons. This is a problem for common resources. So the basic thing here is common resources will get overused, overexploited. Okay. Yeah? Questions? Pretty simple. Okay. So those are the hot topics for public goods. I want to go off on a little side topic. I'll start now and continue on Thursday. This is a problem that shows up in many policy decisions. Value of life. Okay. Policymakers have to make practical decisions about spending money to save lives, or spending money to save lives, or not spending money and lives are lost. Okay, so for example, with highway safety, okay, a road might be dangerous. Lives might get lost on that road because of the dangerous features. The highway department could spend money to make the road safer. What is the most that the highway department should spend? Should it be willing to spend $100 to save a life? Okay. Should it be willing to spend $100,000 to save a life? Should it be willing to spend $100 million to save a life? And so, highway safety is one example. Other forms of safety, there are other applications where value of life is important. Medical care. Okay, health care. How much should doctors be willing to pay to save someone's life? A patient comes into the hospital with some disease, and should the hospital be, or insurance company, or for people covered by government health care, should the government be willing to pay $100 to save a life? $100,000 to save a life? $100 million to save a life? And the answer is part of the answer is there has to be, we have to draw the line somewhere, okay? And that's what these value of life discussions are all about, okay? I would love for the answer to be that a life, that you can't put a dollar amount on a human life. A human life is worth more than any money. I would love for that to be I'm lying. As an economist, I would hate for that to be the answer. As an economist, I would love for there to be a dollar amount we can put on a human life. Okay, it seems that it's sort of an ethical argument that we cannot put a value on life. I just can't buy that, okay? I just can't buy that. We have to. We have to decide, because we have scarce resources, we have to decide what we would be willing to pay to save a life. Okay, and, economists love to assign value to things. Okay, so this brings us to the really big question. How much is a human life worth? Okay, and I'm going to pick on a couple of people. Who will allow me to pick on you? Okay, so I'm going to go with Allie, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you do ALLI?
ALI.
ALI, okay. Okay, so let's see. Is there someone on Zoom who would participate in this discussion? If so, just say your name. Anyone on Zoom? No. No volunteers. Okay. let's see. Over in the corner of the room, what is your name?
Garrett?
Garrett?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so Garrett, I'm going to call on you. Okay, Garrett, how much is Allie's life worth to you? In other words, okay, there's a choice between you pay X dollars or else Allie vanishes forever. Okay. How much would you pay?
Probably like 100.
100? Okay, so Garrett's answer is 100. Why?
It's like, I don't know, like, it's within reason that I could afford, and like, obviously I wanted to stay alive.
Okay, so it's affordable. And you want her to stay alive. You said obviously you want her to stay alive. I'm sorry, I'm kind of stupid and it's not obvious to me. Why do you want her to stay alive?
Well, I mean, life is just worth everything.
Life is worth everything.
Like, there's nothing really that, like, values more than, like, human life, that you only live once.
That's why I come in like $100.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So you'd pay $100 for Allie's life, to save Allie's life. What about paying $100 to save someone's life in Myanmar?
In what?
Myanmar, it's a country in Southeast Asia. Okay. Person you've never met in a country you've maybe never heard of. How much would you pay to save their life?
Probably close to this.
Close, really? Okay. So have you?
Right?
Have you?
Oh, happen?
Yeah. No. Okay. Have you looked into how much it would cost to save a person's life? Like,
No, but
in-
I know it's a lot.
it's not. It might be in the range of a few $100s. According to the International Rescue Committee, it's in the neighborhood of a few $100s, maybe $600, that you could save the life of someone in a distressed part of the world. Okay. Now, okay, let me ask a more general question. Has anyone in this class donated a few $100s to an organization like the International Rescue Committee or International Red Cross to save lives? Stephanie, you are such a collectively minded person. Okay, so, okay, and I'm not going to ask how much you've donated, but, well, good for you. Okay, let me just point out, the rest of you are establishing, oh, yes.
But how many people here have donated blood and other things like that? Like for units that might not have been as many now.
Okay. No, donating blood. I mean, for gosh sakes, how much does it cost you to donate blood? Nothing? Okay. I mean, you have to sit there for half an hour with a needle in your arm, which is a little bit of distress, but Could it save a life?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So let's ask again this question. How many of you have been willing to sit for free with a needle in your arm? That's all you have to do to save a life in the past year. Okay, so we've established that 4 people out of 15 or so say that saving a life is worth that much to them. Okay, and we've established that the remaining people have decided that saving a human life is not even worth sitting in a blood bank for half an hour. Okay. So we're getting close to the answer that I'm looking for. The value of an anonymous person's life to most people is approximately $0. Okay. I hate to acknowledge this, but it's probably more or less true. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to put things on hold so you all can reflect on this for a couple of days. Yes, I mean, so what we're going to talk about is the fact that it matters when we talk about value of a life. It's the value of whose life and to whom. Okay? And if I call on the same people who have not donated blood to save a stranger's life, would you donate blood to save your mom's life? Would you sit in a blood bank for half an hour to save your mom's life if she needed the transfusion? If your mom needed a kidney, would you donate a kidney to save her life? Okay, and the answer might be that you're willing to donate more to save your mom's life than you do for a random stranger. I mean, the important thing is it's going to really matter whose life and to whom. Okay, so with that, I'm done for today.